Welcome to another edition of Baseball and Beyond. This is a wonderful day to be talking to the guy they used to call Larry Walker. Larry?
I'm guessing that's supposed to be French.
I don't know. Did people say that? Did you hear that a lot in Montreal?
You know, the only person that used it and called my name with a somewhat of a French accent, as you just attempted, was Chris Berman.
I was going to say him or John Miller. I think John Miller used to do really good Spanish. He tried to do Spanish guys. So you're normally in Florida, but this I'm catching you when you're up actually in Cooperstown for the fantasy camp. I'm assuming, I don't know, how many times have you been to Cooperstown?
This is my third time here, I believe.
And you do the tour, you like kind of being up there? What's your favorite part of that place?
You know what? Just the city itself is quite a neat deal just to walk around. I did that today for a little while. Actually, one of the guys on my team is a curator over at the hall. So myself and Kyle McLennan went kind of backstage today and for a couple hours and got a little tour of some places that the public doesn't get to see. So it was pretty neat.
Now, Kyle will never actually be on the stage up there be inducted, but I'm sure you get this question a lot. Your thoughts on possibly being up there as a player who should be in the Hall of Fame? What's your thoughts, and do you think you have the numbers, and do you think it's something that you should have had an honor or have that honor at some point?
Well, like I said, obviously if the voting was up to me, I'd say, okay, yeah, I'm in, but it's not, and I don't lose sleep over that fact that people have their choice to vote yes or no, and right now, you know, 80% of them are saying no, so that's just the way it is. I don't harp on that fact. You know, I'm honored by the fact that I've been on the ballot for 8 years, and I'm honored by the fact that there's a lot more people that say I should be on than maybe say I don't and I shouldn't be on.
We're going to come back to that because I look at these numbers and they're nuts. But this normally a lot of Cardinal fans like to listen to this, so we'll start with the end of your career. So you get you block a trade to Texas because you can, and then the Cardinals come in early August, and it's the craziest, most surprise trade of all time. I think anybody who was watching the Cardinals that night, first of all, it's one of the best teams we've ever seen. It was the most entertaining team I've ever watched. And there's buzz. Like, what, Larry Walker? Cardinals? We're 30 games over 500, and we're bringing in Larry Walker? Just a little bit about what your thoughts were when you kind of got I think you got some phone calls from some of the players, and you started hearing about it from that side, but just your thoughts when you heard that was starting to be kind of the talk in August.
Well, I tell you, it almost didn't happen because of what you said with the Texas deal. I had people on the inside that were close to me, and even agent-wise, telling me that I need to take this trade. It's a good situation over there, and I spoke with the GM with the Rangers at the time. I spoke with the ownership of the Rangers, and just something in my gut after a day and a half. I remember sitting out back at my place in Colorado, just on a swing, just contemplating this thing, and something entered my mind and said, it's not for you. And I blocked that trade against everyone else's wishes. And shortly after that, a few days later, that's when, the Cardinal thing came knocking on my door. And, like I say, as a visitor, I never really went to Texas that often. I think I only had one trip there, but obviously being in the National League, I made numerous trips to St. Louis, and I think pretty much 100% of the ball players that come into St. Louis as a visitor would one day dream about having that uniform on. And you play in front of those fans with that organization, the history behind it, and the support that they get. And you know that doesn't come around very often. So it was really a no-brainer for me when the call came. This one I didn't sit on my swing and think about. And then with messages from Roland and Edmonds about what goes on over there and how things roll, it was you know, I was really looking forward to getting there. And you know, it took me a day to get there, and only because my daughter was in town visiting. It was tough and my mom was there too. So, you know, they flew in from Canada, and it's like, I mean, Mom, I got 3 days to report, but I really can't do that in this situation. So I took that night because they wanted me to fly out that night. I took that night to stay with them and say goodbye to them, and left the next morning, and then the rest was history for me. I came there and thoroughly enjoyed my every day I had in that uniform.
On a swing, I'm trying to picture this, just Larry Walker on a swing. Was it a big swing, a tree swing? What kind of swing we got here?
Well, my house is up in the mountain, so it was one that was on the side of the mountain that can sit 3 people. So just swinging back and forth on that, just in my own little world, trying to come up with the answer.
How'd you end up in Jupiter then? Because obviously the Cardinals are down there. Is that, or do you have 2 homes? I mean, you're Larry Walker. You can live wherever.
Well, I had a home obviously in Colorado, playing there for 10 years almost. And when I first started playing professional ball, I signed with the Montreal Expos. Montreal Expos spring training was in West Palm Beach, Florida, and that's where I purchased and bought my first home.
So no home in Colorado, or still a home? I'm sorry, I'm just trying to get the geography of where you live these days.
Yeah, I live in West Palm Beach the majority of the time. That is where my head is for most of the time. I make trips to various places. In fact, I'm leaving to go back home where I was born and raised in Vancouver, British Columbia, in 3 days. So I go spend some time up there with family and friends.
Yeah. So my goal is to winter in West Palm Beach. So we're almost there. Next January, I'm going to be down there, I think, for 30 days. Not that you care, but maybe we'll break bread. You and Rick Ankiel and Matt Holliday, Matt Yadier Molina. So many guys live down there. But
I'll try to make sure I'm out of town at that point in time.
I just want to say I'm going to winter somewhere. I didn't even want to live there. I just want to winter somewhere.
That's a good choice.
All right, so I'm still pissed about the World Series in 2004 because, like I said, that team is just, as a fan, I grew up a Cardinal fan, and I just, as we get further away from that team, the 85 team is the one that sort of got me into Cardinals. The 87 team was like the best team I ever saw, and then the 04 team. So how pissed are you that team doesn't, not only don't they win a World Series, but I know Jim Edmonds has said, man, it almost seems fixed. Like, this is just like Boston's ordained to win. Did you feel that way? And Game 1 was so close, and then Game 2 not so much, and then it just said it was like over in a snap.
It did go by very quick, unfortunately. And I was telling some of the campers here at Fantasy Camp last night that it took a lot of years for me to get that out of my system. I had nights where I sat at home, I couldn't sleep. I'd lay in bed and just think about what could have been. You're on a team that's that talent and good that first losing is a heartbreak, but doing it in 4 games too and not even winning a game it breaks it even more if that's possible. But I don't so much go back and have those nights where I can't sleep. They have happened, but they're far and few between now. Whereas the first 3-4 years, literally, it ate me up pretty bad, knowing that was, as it turned out to be, my only and only chance to win a World Series while in uniform and playing.
So 05, you guys get another chance, and I think you were kind of hurt pretty much a lot, right? I mean, how hurt were you by the end of 05? Because I think you just pretty much let everyone know after Game 6 at Busch that you were done. Could you have played a couple more years, or did you just say, I cannot do this anymore?
Well, you know what? I think there's a combination of a lot of things. Just 17 years in the league was a long time. I had would see the black cloud over my head as far as injuries happening, and I could not shake that. I don't know if 13 years of hockey and then all the baseball that I played fairly reckless and didn't show a lot of respect for my body at times, and that's just how I played. And just the rehab from a lot of those injuries, from my knee being completely reconstructed to broken collarbone, separated shoulder. And then when I got there, I remember being in Milwaukee, and the game ended. I went in the weight room to work out a little bit with Pete Prinzi, the strength coach, and I was on an incline, doing some incline bench pressing, and I only had 35 pounds on, just doing a lot of reps, and I couldn't do one rep. I got it like halfway, and my left arm started shaking, and it gave out on me. And that's I was like, what the heck's that all about? So tried it again and couldn't do it. I couldn't lift 35 pounds off my chest and had no idea what was going on, and went and got that looked at to find out what was going on. Yeah, it hurt some, yeah, but like I say, every player plays through pain. You don't play through injury, but I played through pain, and it turned out that I had a herniated disc in my neck, and that was a struggle that year. It was bothersome for every swing that I missed, which happens, and I had 3 cortisone shots in my neck just to get through that year, and I just couldn't fathom having to get that fixed after all the rehabs I've been through. And I thought about the 17 years, and it was a long time, and to get through that at my age, just didn't seem right. I didn't want to be that old fart trying to hang on to play for another year when some young kid could be in there, doing something a lot more productive than I probably could have done.
Could have won a ring the next year, though, Larry. I'm telling you.
Well, I can look at that two ways. I was able to be in spring training with the Cardinals and traveled with them a few times, and as class as the Cardinals were, they gave myself and Cal Eldred a ring, the World Series ring for doing all that. So I ended up getting a World Series ring, but I was not playing at the time. So that was obviously an amazing honor. And then the other side of it, if I would have played, they might not have won a ring. So.
Well, you said a young guy, and I was just thinking about that. Chris Duncan, I think, had 23, 24 home runs, and so I guess he sort of took your place. So that is interesting. Characters on that team, you had Tony. Do you have a great Tony LaRusso story? He seems like for you probably just, hey, you go bat second and give us damage. Any good stories about him though that you found? He's such a unique guy, and I love hearing people talk about him.
No, like I said, it was an honor to play for him, the organization, and Tony LaRusso. He's one of a kind, and the knowledge that he has in the game for the game of baseball is pretty incredible. He did tell me that early on that he was supposed to, I think, manage the Red Sox. Did he manage the Red Sox? I don't remember the story exactly, but he wanted to draft. The first player he wanted to draft was me. And I guess it ended up not happening. He didn't get the job or something along that line. So that was pretty neat. But when I came to the Cardinals, he called me in his office and he just wanted to pick my brain on how I play the game and what's my thinking out there. And I gave him an honest answer, and it's really how I played my career. And I said, well, Tony, when I'm hitting, the guy's going to throw the ball and I'm going to hit it. And I'm going to run. When I'm in the field, it's going to reverse. The other guys are going to hit it. I'm going to catch it and throw it in. That's basically about it. And he looked at me and said, "You're a funny guy, though. Seriously." And I go, "Well, that actually is seriously. I never tried to make the game more sophisticated or complicated than what it is, and I tried to put all the simplicity into it I could. So that's literally how I thought of the game."
And I'll tell you that these fantasy camps are worth the price of admission, and the fact that I get the chance to talk to you is just awesome. But I remember they had a little hitting drill, and they had you and Scott Cooper, and I don't know if they still do these, but they have Ozzie and Willie teaching base running, and Ozzie teaching defense, and Ozzie does everything. But you come over to your station, and it's talking hitting, and you're like, guys, I don't know what to tell you. I just would swing real hard and hope it would leave the ballpark. And that's true, right? And tell me a little bit about, like, when you see these guys, it seems so mental for a lot of guys. I guess you couldn't really be a coach and teach this stuff because you could be, but I just think it's amazing that you just said, I guess that's just what talent is. When you can do what you did, is that kind of what we're getting at when we talk about hitting with you?
Well, I guess so. I don't think I'd be a good coach just because I don't think I would give the organization what they're looking for and for me, a lot of hitting coaches were, not, I won't say a lot of them, but there was a few that were basically hot air. They just talked and because they needed to talk. And for me, the swing, you're in the big leagues playing and your swing has got you there and it's still working. But just because you're going through a couple rough times doesn't mean it needs an overhaul. And so many hitting coaches feel like they have to say stuff and make up stuff and come up with a solution and change this and do that. It's the hardest thing to do in sports, hit a baseball. And if you succeed 30% of the time, you're really, really good. So it's hard to sit there and try to change everybody's swing when I don't think it's necessary. My thing is it's more confidence than anything else. And, believe in yourself and get up there, be able to accept the failure and continue on. And I think a lot of guys get caught up in the failure. And when they step in the box, that's more what they're thinking about than succeeding.
Yeah, and you had fun too. That was what I always thought about when I watched you. I guess when you're a 5-tool player and you make it look easy, it's fun, I'm guessing, right?
It's fun when it goes well. I showed my frustrations right there on my sleeve. I wasn't afraid to break a bat or throw a helmet. I get pissed at times. I want to do well all the time as well. So it was never fun failing.
So you obviously a Canadian, so obviously a hockey guy, and you did play hockey as a youngster. So what was it? How hard was it to kind of decide to do baseball when everyone wants to? It's funny that I ask you this too. I'm just thinking about this. I heard Wayne Gretzky talk about how he was going to be a baseball player all the way up to about age 16. Like he thought I'm playing baseball. That's what I want to do. And he just kept scoring so many goals. But you did the reverse. You played hockey. You played it with Cam Neely, right? It was about a year. So how hard was it to sort of make that decision, or was it just, hey, I'm too good at baseball and that's what I'm doing?
I had no clue what I could do at baseball. It's something I never did growing up. I played 15, 20 games this summer until I was 16. And then I played a 70-game season. But hockey, I failed at 2 attempts at a junior A team. And when they tried to send me to a junior B team, I went to the town, and just the town didn't. It was a ghost town, and I said, you know what, this isn't for me. And then had a chance to play in 2 tournaments, one representing Canada in a World Youth Championship in 1984, and then a couple of weeks later, I represented British Columbia playing against U.S. college teams. And I think that was the turning point. I hit 440 or something like that against U.S. college teams, and that's when a scout, Bob Rogers, came calling, and there was a couple of teams. I think the White Sox were interested, but the Montreal Expos were the ones that came up and asked me if I wanted to play. And I really didn't think anything of it. You couldn't draft Canadians at the time, so when they offered me $1,500 US, which was about $2,000 Canadian at the time, I was, where do I sign? And I did. So I got my 2,000, and I hopped in my Pathfinder and drove from Vancouver to West Palm Beach, Florida, and went to my first spring training in 1985.
I think I read this story. I think it's Wikipedia or something where you ran across first to third or something. You didn't even know you had to hit second base, or was there something like that happened? Or
yeah, it was actually a hit and run. I took off running and didn't peek in to see where the ball was. Heard the crack of the bat, and I thought it was a base hit to right field. It turned out to be a fly ball to right field. So I was on my way to third, and Gene Glenn, the coach, told me to get back. So I did. I ran back, slid into first ahead of the slow throw, and the umpire called me out. And I got up kicking and screaming, and that's when Ken Brett, the first base coach and our manager, told me I had to go back and touch second base. As it turned out, I ran across the pitcher's mound, so I didn't. I'd already touched second. Why did I touch it again?
Unwritten rules, Larry. Come on.
Yeah. I found them out.
So, I mean, were you? I kind of remember. I mean, I was a kid when you came up with the Expos. Were you regarded as just a national hero there for being a Canadian and playing in Montreal? I know that was a big deal that you were a Canadian playing for the Expos, but was it bigger than I'm remembering?
It's probably not as big as you're remembering. Is more how I remember it. It's they had a Canadian playing for him with me, yes, and they had a couple other Canadians that came up as well. And the key for it not being as big as a deal is I'm English Canadian. I'm not French Canadian. So, obviously the team is in Montreal, Quebec, which is predominantly French speaking. So I really wasn't one of theirs. And it didn't quite have the flair that everybody thought it was going to have when I first got there. There was somebody like Denny Boucher, when he came and pitched, they laid out the fleur-de-lis between the home and the pitcher's mound as he was warming up, to celebrate the fact that, hey, there's a French Canadian pitching for Montreal. That's what we've been waiting for.
So you didn't drink your beer with your pinky out. They didn't like that. You're Molson.
No. Don't even know what that means.
I don't either. But so how you came up with Randy Johnson at the same time, or were you guys in the? Or I know you guys came up in the same. Well, you came up a little earlier, but did you run through the minors with him, and were you guys pretty good friends? Because this I totally forgot during the All-Star game when you're a Rocky and he's a Mariner, and you do the whole behind the head. You put your helmet on backwards. He doesn't laugh, obviously. He doesn't ever. But I mean, were you guys pretty good friends throughout this whole time?
Oh yeah,
okay.
Yeah, no doubt. We like I say, teammates in the Expo organization. I actually faced him one time in spring training. This was when he was a madman with even longer hair and bigger muscles, and threw 150, but no idea where it was going. And I faced him in spring training in an inter-squad game. He threw the first pitch down the middle for a strike. I took the second pitch was a slider. I flailed at and missed by 1.5 feet. And the 0-2 pitch, actually, I don't know how I got out of the way of it, but I think I felt it nick my chin on the way by, and my heart started beating way beyond as fast as it should be beating. The 1-2 pitch, before the ball even left his hand, I swung and just ran back to the dugout saying, no thanks. I'm not this one at bat isn't going to help me make a team, so I'm not going to take one off the dome. and that was my Randy story from there. But we grew up, and when the trade happened and he went to Seattle, I think we were actually in a car together riding to the ballpark, and I want to say in Rochester and something like that. And I remember saying to him, "Oh, this is a dumb trade. They're going to regret this one." And as it turned out, it was pretty bad.
So is he always that serious, or is there sort of a different side? It seems like he's doing like photography now, and he's very serious about it. Was there ever a time where you could make him giggle at all, or no?
Randy has a very funny side to him. He's a funny guy, and he does laugh. He'll laugh hard, but he's very conscious of what he's doing in public. He doesn't want to make a fool of himself, and he has the imitation, the reputation of intimidating you as a pitcher. So, and he took that to another level. With the long hair and the stare downs and not smiling, and he would literally try to scare the crap out of you, and that's what he did, and it worked. So, but deep down inside, no, he's a great guy, and it's funny and fun to be around.
So what was that night at the All-Star game? I think it was Baltimore, right, where you did that? And did you prepare for that, or was that, hey, I'm coming? Well, I guess he threw it Kruk the first time, so
Correct.
Did you talk to him beforehand, or how'd that work?
Well, that was the ball just slipped out of his hand, and then things just happened after that. Complete, just weird how it worked out, I guess.
So, also the last thing about Montreal '94. I mean, how do you look at that? I know there's been talk about what could have been with that team. I mean, that was a great team. You had Pedro, Marquise Grissom, a lot of Delano DeShields, just an awesome team. But, I mean, do you guys think that team was on its way?
Well, if any team I've been on, I've been asked, because people say you played on the '04 Cardinals that were made to the World Series and the '94 Expos that didn't go. And the common question is, which of those two teams was better? I got asked it today, actually. So, and my answer is always the same. And sorry to say to Cardinal Nation that the '94 Expo team, that's the best team I've played on. It was just so much talent and so much young talent. It was the one team that I've been on where I pretty much we didn't think we were going to win every night. We pretty much knew we were going to win every night, and we went out there and dominated for quite some time. And it's scary to think what could have happened if that strike didn't happen and a World Series came to Montreal that year. There could possibly still be a Montreal Expos to this day.
A few more minutes with Larry Walker, and now we get to Colorado. So I guess this is where your career blossoms a little bit. Just I know we talked about it kind of at the start. They do a thing. I think I read this article where they adjust. There's sabermetrics, so this is good for you that there's sabermetrics. This wasn't around back then, but they adjust your numbers to parks, and your numbers adjust well. Like if you didn't play in Colorado, your numbers still sort of balance out. I think a lot of people always will think about, that it was the balls were in a humidor or whatever, but just talk about what it was like kind of playing up there and just being able to rake. I mean, I have a 97, you hit 366, 720 slugging percentage. You hit 363 the next year, 379, 350. These are batting averages. People don't like to talk about batting averages, but the slugging's crazy. Just your 1997's crazy. Talk about just being up there and how everything was going right for you in Colorado.
Well, I guess the first thing I'll say is thank God I actually did good in Colorado, because if I didn't succeed there, then we probably wouldn't be having any talking about Hall of Fames, or I still wouldn't be on that ballot, and none of that would come true. So it's a good thing I did succeed there and do well. But it was another team I played for. Of the three I played for, it was one of the other teams, and nothing was different thinking-wise. You took the field against 24 other guys, and you tried to win a game. The other team had the same advantages as we did at Coors Field, and we took the field trying to win a ball game. And that was really all I ever thought about my whole career. Then you retire. Then all they want to talk about is your numbers and everything. And I've really never gotten into that. I don't understand all that saber stuff and all that stuff. And like I say, my numbers are what they are. They're not going to change. People always say, you think you're going to make it in the Hall of Fame? And no, I'm not going to make it in the Hall of Fame. It's not going to go from 20% to 75%, just because it's getting near the end of my ballot. So, but it was a fun time in Colorado. Unfortunately, we didn't put a lot of winning teams on the field, so the fans kind of dwindled down some. But great fans there that maybe didn't have the knowledge and of what it was like with the St. Louis Cardinal fans, the time that they've been around. But when they came out, man, they were unbelievable, and that was one of the reasons I went there. When I first, I didn't know, nobody knew about the ball traveling and how that was going to work out. I went there because the ballpark was full every day. Understand, I was playing in Montreal for 6 years, and we had 5,000 people would be all too common to see. So as a visitor going into Colorado, I was like, oh my God, this is great. Not only the seats were full, but it reminded me of home from being from Vancouver. It was in the mountains, and I got to see all that and see the trees and the weather and everything. And it brought me back home. And those two things really intrigued me to go play there.
I mean, but do you, like, what was there something for you that just seemed like it was clicking at that time? I mean, and like I said, you've said before, I didn't really think about hitting, but I mean, it just was, everything was where you're hitting home runs, you're slugging, you're doing you're throwing out people. I mean, you had 12 outfield assists in 97. I mean, tell me, 30 stolen bases. I mean, you did everything, definitely in 97, but I think it was like a 5-year period there. I mean, just health, just not thinking about that stuff?
Well, that 97 was the year I played the most games without getting hurt. And, that always helps. I miss a lot of games from injuries and surgeries, and so that didn't help me in a lot of cases. But like I say, my last couple of years in Montreal, I was kind of figuring everything out, and with no high school baseball and no college baseball, I think I started. It took me a few years to figure the game out in the minor leagues, and then getting up to the major league level to know what I was capable of. And I always tried to raise my game to the level that I was playing against, and I think I finally I honed that. Maybe I think in 1993 is when it started for me, actually. And then like I talked about earlier, having confidence, taking the field with confidence, even when you fail. And you got to be able to be confident in what you're doing. And from 93 till the end of my career, basically, I was confident in how I could play the game and how I could succeed. So, and obviously playing in Colorado and playing at that ballpark helped a lot. It also made it more difficult going out on the road because you're so used to the ball doing things that it doesn't do normally. So it was adjustment from there and going on the road.
So we kind of wrapped up. Any favorite? I mean, any favorite moments as a Cardinal? I mean, there's so many great moments in the World Series. I think that obviously your first at bat was one of the craziest ones. You come up and everyone gives you a standing ovation. 3 pitches, strikeout, back to the bench, and another standing ovation. I think that's one of the ones no one will ever forget. But do you have anything that kind of off the field you remember, or something with Scotty and Jim? Because those guys are, this team was rolling, and Jimmy and Pujols. Anything with any of those guys that you? Because you're a funny guy, and I feel like we've been almost too serious. Maybe talk more about the swing, being on the swing.
I don't think I struck out on 3 pitches. First of all, I don't remember that part. I forget a lot of things, but God dang, I hope I'm not wrong on that.
I'll go back and look. I'm sorry, that was my bad, and I will edit this.
Listen, the standing ovation going up there to the plate and then striking out and coming back and getting another standing ovation. That's just typical Cardinal fan, the Cardinal Nation, the way they are. And we're not gonna clap for this guy. He goes up there and he made an out. Be it I could have lined out, flew out, struck out, whatever. It was an out, but they still were. I looked at it as they were happy to have me in a uniform, and what a gratifying thing that was for me, and an unbelievable way to welcome me. So that was pretty cool. There's a lot of stories. Just I don't know how much stuff's funny, and probably some of it I can't say on for people to hear. It's maybe it's later nights at the bar with some guys that they might hear stories that I could tell publicly. But just being in that clubhouse was fun. They had a Golden Tee golf game in there. Guys would play that. It was a very loose atmosphere. Just guys relaxed until the bell rang, and then it was game on, and everybody just clicked together. It was like I say, it was a joy to play for, and fun to go out there and have almost that same feeling as what I had in '94 with that Expo team.
Yeah, well, that's why I do plug. Joe Pfeiffer's been great to me. That fantasy camp is one of the greatest things, and I know we've had a few beers and had some stories, and you even have fun pictures on your phone that you share with all the campers sometimes.
I do that.
So lastly, kind of what are you doing now? Do you have any, do you have to do anything? Do you work? Do you want to coach? Do you have any future plans, or are you just going to hang out by the beach?
I'm pretty laid back. I don't make any plans a lot of the time for when I wake up every day. I do have some things I do. I'll go out of town to do a few events here and there. I'm very, very selective on things I do. I don't like traveling all that much. I do go back home to British Columbia. I'm actually going to be there Wednesday, so I'm leaving here, going back to Florida for a day, and then I'll be back in British Columbia for a good month and a half, and spending time up there. But I used to golf a lot. Don't do that so much. I could spend the day out in my yard doing yard work, and I am completely happy. So days like that are what I live for, and just being able to talk and see to my kids all the time, and enjoy them, and growing up and hanging with them. It's there's just the little things. It doesn't take a lot to excite me.
Any how old are your kids, and any ball players? Any future Larry Walkers coming through the system?
No. The two youngest are girls, and the oldest is 24 and never played ball. So the 17-year-old plays some soccer, and that's really about it. So the athletic gene didn't travel too far.
Maybe the World Cup. Maybe, you never know. Soccer's getting big. Yeah. Well, I really appreciate your time, and like I said, Cooperstown, you should be up there not as a guest but on the stage. But I don't have a vote. But these Sabre guys, they're taking over. They're the ones who might be able to, at the end, push you over. The Sabre guys are big, Larry. You might want to become friends with them. I'm not a fan of them.
Well, there's been a lot of push the last year. A lot of people reached out to me, I think they're going to push it. People want me to publicize myself more, and it's just not me. I'm content and happy being unknown and unseen and unheard of for most of it. That's why I don't do a lot of things. I'm just not a public person that way, I guess. So, but hopefully I get up to the 30%. Maybe I'll make it to 33%, and then I'll be completely satisfied.
You do have you like that 33. I do notice that. But I appreciate your time. Have fun up at Fantasy Camp, and I'll be seeing you in January if you're around, and you can hide. I'll stay away, but I'll be wintering in Florida, and I'll be giving Larry Walker a call. I appreciate your time, Larry.
You got it. Thanks for having me.
All right, it's Baseball and Beyond, presented by Masters Restaurant. We thank Larry Walker, hopefully a Hall of Famer someday, but one of the greats of all time in baseball. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.